Hello and welcome to the Cincinnati Film Festival. I'm Menaka Apana with IFFC. Hope you enjoyed our discussion with Muthan's director Gitu Mohandas and Rankailini's director Geeta. In case you missed either of these discussions from the first two nights, please visit us at iffcincy.com to view the interviews. We are thrilled to have with us today director and writer of Qissa, Anup Singh. Anup is the Geneva-based filmmaker best known for writing and directing The Song of Scorpions, Akti Nadir Naam, and of course, writing for the TV series Idiot. Anup is joining us from France. From the film Qissa, we have the extremely talented Tillotama Shome, who is already part of the IFFC family and has joined us in June during our lockdown Movie of the Week Zoom discussions. She has starred in some incredible films, including Monsoon Wedding, Shadows of the Time, and Menekes Das's Little Box of Secrets, to name a few. In addition to bringing films to life on screen, she has also taught her art with the creative arts team in New York City and was very active in giving back to the community, working with women in domestic shelters and inmates at Rikers Island. Tillotama is joining us today from India. And last but not least, to lead tonight's discussion is Aseem Chhabra. Aseem is a film journalist who has been published in the New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Outlook, Mumbai Mirror, Rediff.com, has a regular column in The Hindu, and has been a commentator on Indian cinema and popular culture on NPR, CNN, BBC, and also ABC's Good Morning America. He is the festival director of the New York Indian Film Festival and Silk Screen Asian American Film Festival in Pittsburgh. Aseem is joining us from New York today. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you all here tonight, and to our audience tuning in, we hope you enjoy. Please feel free to direct any of your questions in the chat box so Aseem can include them in the discussion. Enjoy.
Thank you, Menaka. Hello, everyone. This is Aseem Chhabra. And it's kind of very odd. I have this picture of Irrfan at the back. It's actually a book I wrote on Irrfan called Irrfan Khan, the Man, the Dreamer, the Star. And both Anup and Tillotama feature in the book. But I'm really glad that we are able to celebrate Irrfan. It was really, really very tragic losing the man, but he's left behind this whole treasure of films, really. And I think people need to visit them. So one of the best things that is happening at the Cincinnati Indian Film Festival is that people have had a chance to see Qissa, The Tale of a Lonely Ghost, which was Anup's first film with Irrfan, and Tillotama played the sort of the kind of lead role opposite Irrfan. So Anup and Tillotama need no introduction. We can just start off. Anup, you had known Irrfan for quite a while. I mean, you had even done some television work with him before that. So do you want to address that, and then how the Qissa project came about when you decided to cast Irrfan in the lead?
Well, first of all, Aseem, thank you for inviting me to this talk. A tribute to Irrfan is very, very important, and there's a legacy that he has left behind that I'm sure Tillotama and I, and all of us who have worked with him, would like to carry along with us as we, do other work. Many years ago, this is a time when I was still struggling in Mumbai. I just come out of the Film Institute in Pune, and basically was on the streets, as writers and directors generally are, trying to find work. Through certain circumstances, I got offered a TV series that was based on a story that I had written, and I never thought it would, go anywhere. But a producer picked it up and said, why don't we do a TV series? I was hesitant, and then somehow the producer managed to convince Irrfan to be a part of it. And my interest then peaked, and we went ahead to do it. It was very strange. We did a pilot, and we were very happy, Irrfan and I, with what we had done together. But due to various circumstances, the series never came about. But what did happen with that particular experience is that we came to know each other a little more closely than we had before.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something else that happened, I think, at that time, and that is in the work that we did, even though it was, for television, there was a quality of trust that we seem to have found. And then many years later, I think it was 10 years later, when I went to him with Qissa, it was very easy for me to approach him. We hadn't spoken in between, really, but we had memories of each other. And Irrfan always remembered the pilot that we had done together. So when I went to him with Qissa, he read it immediately and asked me to come and see him at his house in Bombay, which I did. And we sat together for a long time, basically chatting and catching up. And then he said, Anup, I can't do it. I can't do this film. The character is so dark, and I'm not at that stage in my life at this moment, spiritually, that would allow me to play such a character. And I would, love to work with you. If you have something else, come to me first. But this one, I think I cannot do it. So I left completely desolate. I got down from the house, I got into a taxi, and halfway through, I kept on thinking about what Irrfan had said. And then I told the driver of the taxi to please turn around. I called Irrfan, and I said, I want to come back. Give me 5 minutes. He said, yeah, please, do, come. So I went back, and I went upstairs to his apartment. We sat down again. And I said to him, I thought about what you had said. And I'm afraid, Irrfan, I don't agree with you. He said, tell me, what? I said, both of us, we have a great love and regard for this incredible singer, Nusrat Ali Fateh Khan, the great Sufi singer. And I know that you listen to him all the time. And you have also watched him on YouTube, for example. And when Nusrat sings, as you know, his whole face distorts. Sometimes it becomes horrifying the way his face distorts because he needs to get a certain tone out. Sometimes his face looks almost violent, raging, But the sound that comes out of him is really one of the most sublime sounds that we have heard on this earth. And I said, that's the thing, Irrfan, that what we see is not necessarily what we feel. That behind all this violence that you might see in my character, there's this real sublimity. There's this gentleness, there's this beauty also that resides there. So Irrfan looked at me the way more or less he's looking at me now, behind you. And he said, okay, let's do it. Let's go ahead, let's do it. And that's how it is. That is how we agreed to do Qissa together.
But you could see him, one of the challenges in Qissa must have been, there are 4 main actors. 2 of the supporting actresses that you got, Tiska Chopra and Rasika Duggal, are Punjabi speaking.
Yes.
You cast Tillotama, who's here with us today, who's Bengali speaking, speaks Hindi very fluently. I know Tillotama has lived in Delhi for some time, but the fact that you decided to make the film in Punjabi and you cast Tillotama, and Irrfan, who also is from North India, from Jaipur, the whole film is in Punjabi, and you could see, especially Irrfan and Tillotama, to play Punjabi in Punjabi.
There are many reasons for that. I could go into numerous things, but this is a film about identities and how certain identities fix us. And one of the things that the film talks about is it's about how we are strangers to ourselves. So certainly, you know, by asking these great actors to work with a language which is not theirs is already in a way preparing them for the role. All right.
Right.
They have to.
Oh, retrospect is such a gorgeous thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So they have to be strangers to themselves a little more critically
Yeah.
than what they would normally be.
Right.
You know? So that was one.
Right.
The other is, you know, when I wrote the character in Qissa, I had Balraj Sahni in mind, who comes from the Punjab. And,
Right. Right.
you know, but of course, Balraj Sahni was dead even while I was writing the script. He was dead about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But I did have him in mind while writing. And at the end of it, when I had finished the script, I asked myself, who is there today whom I would trust with the role as I would Balraj Sahni? And honestly, the only person I could think about was Irrfan. So going to him I think was sort of given to me because there was no one else I could go to, really.
And you completely transformed him. I mean, made him into a Sardar, and Tillotama also a large part of the film wears the turban. But the thing about it is that even though Irrfan with the beard and everything else with the turban, you still have his eyes. You have his haunting look that's there, which I can see behind me also. That's really amazing. Tell me about how Irrfan prepared for the role. I'd love to hear from Tillotama also how she prepared for the role and how she worked with Irrfan. But first, you tell me how Irrfan prepared for the role, and then we'll talk to Tillotama a little bit also.
I'm very happy to listen. Very happy.
I want to hear from you, Tillotama.
Yeah, I want to listen to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Irrfan's face, his eyes, of course, are something that hold us, enchant us, entrance us, really. But there's much more to him as an actor. And that is something that I think we were working towards in this particular film. And that is his body. You know, there is, and perhaps it has a little to do with the Punjabi also. That the way you speak Punjabi, and Punjabi is spoken in many different ways in India and outside of India. You know, Punjabi as it is spoken in Pakistan is very different from how it is spoken in various parts of the Punjab in India. So more than the language itself, more than the words, you know, we were interested very much in the musicality of the language. We wanted to see how putting certain words together could actually release certain gestures, certain postures, set you in a certain rhythm. You know? And this is something that we spoke about very early, Irrfan and I, while preparing for the role. The rhythms that we wanted. And I said, this film is as much about your body as it is about, you know, your face that everyone knows so well. And in terms of preparing, I'll give you one example, and it is something that I carry with me as a great gift that I got from Irrfan. One day, not very late in the shoot, I came out of this Haveli, this large house where we were shooting, and we were in the Punjab. You know, there were wheat fields behind, there was a forest, and I wanted to go somewhere, and I came across Irrfan sort of alone in one corner, and he was singing, kind of humming, singing. And I stood behind him, and a moment later I realized that he's actually singing a very strange song. He's singing the dialogues of the film.
Wow.
You know. So I listened to him for a while, and then I said to him, Irrfan, what is this that you're singing? Yeah. And he said to me that, you know, I am trying to find this person inside me. And I can do that as an actor, you know. Many things that I'm saying now, I'm also condensing from later conversations that we had together. Yeah. So all things now seem like they are, you know, obvious, but these were things we were also finding for ourselves in time. All right. So excuse me if it seems all very logical and put together.
Yeah.
But really, these came together after long conversations together. And he said to me, you know, it's fine to build a character, but the trouble with building a character is that basically you know where you're going, you know. And he said, then that leads you to certain definitions and certain a prioris, you know, that this is bad, this is good, this is calm, this is dynamic, this is violent, this is, you know, loving. He said, then you play those things. With music and rhythm, which is what I'm trying with how I speak my dialogue, I never know when I shift from one to the other, you know. And in music, it also happens that in my violence, there is love.
Wow.
In my love, the violence remains, you know. So that nuance, that modulation is not something that I control. And therefore my performance or the way I come across on screen is a surprise to me. You know, I do not know what it is that I am playing because I'm playing a simultaneity of emotions. And that was something I learned from him at that point, you know.
Right.
That you don't play characters, you know, that you play the full musicality of what it is to be a human being.
You think that was his theater training, or just over the years he had done quite a few films with and worked with some other very fine directors also until he came to your project?
I think this is a development that he had. This is his growth.
Yeah.
You know, what makes him very special as an actor is that he saw acting as a spiritual practice. Making money, having it as a profession, surviving, existing, were all important to him, you know. But more than that, really, actually more than that, it was how do I grow as a person? You know, what is it that I am? He never knew. He never defined himself. He never said, oh, I am this, or I'm this kind of an actor. Always with him, there was this search, there was this quest. And the beauty about his quest was that he never believed that he had found an answer.
Right.
And if he felt that he had found an answer, he would start again.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I think really that is his legacy to us.
Yeah. And that's not just for actors, really. I think you as a writer also, I write also, you know, you need to keep evolving. You need to keep moving on.
Absolutely.
Being stuck. And I you know, while I was writing the book on Irrfan, also one of the things I read again, and people I talked to also, that Irrfan was very afraid of getting bored. He wanted new challenges. You know, kuch naya karna hai. I remember Shailja Kejriwal said to me, he just kept saying, kuch karo, kuch naya lao, naya lao. And that's why, to the extent that, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen, you know, that video that Irrfan did with the AIB. It's just another party Bollywood song.
Of course.
Yeah. he had not done those kind of Bollywood singing songs, and he gave like 3 days to shoot the video while he was promoting some film, but he wanted really to challenge himself and push himself beyond the boundaries that had been sort of erected around him. So Tillotama, you, I read someplace that, so you had known Irrfan before Qissa, and I read someplace that, were you in that meeting at, I think it was the New York Times building where Meera was there with Irrfan and Tabu? I think it was Namesake, right?
Yes.
Because I happened to be there also, and I'm not sure if I saw you or I got to know you around that time. But tell us about that moment, and if you had known Irrfan before that also.
I did actually. We did a film called Shadows of Time.
Oh yes,
Uh,
yes.
And well, both of us had just a few scenes together. So, and I was in the middle of completing my master's at that time. So I had lots to study, and I wasn't sure if doing films was really such a great idea. But I had said yes to this film, so now like I have to do it. And so between takes, I had no time, because I had, of course, like a conscientious actor, learned my line, forgotten my lines. And now I was on set reading my books, like my, volumes of William Makepeace Thackeray that I had to finish by, and write so many papers. So I was always reading. And Irrfan, of course, we said hi to each other, but not spoken. I was also extremely shy, and he would, come and ask a few times, "Hi, Tillotama, how are you doing today?" I said, "I'm good. What are you reading?" "I'm reading this book." I said, "Same book again?" I said, "Yeah, so many pages." "So how long will you read?" I said, "Till the book finishes." Then another few days later, "Hi, Tillotama, what are you doing?" I said, "You're reading." "Of course, you're reading." "Which book?" I said, "Oh, now this book." "Oh, it's a different book now." Finally, again, he asked, he said, "So how many books do you have to read? Are you only going to read on set?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have my exams actually. That's why I just don't have any time to party with anybody and talk to anyone. And, I know all of you must be going out and having so much fun." He said, "So okay, no, it's okay. You study. Just actually, I have to leave soon because today is my last day of shoot. So I want you to just do one thing for me. But before that, I want you to tell me, how did it feel like to work with Meera in Monsoon Wedding?" So I said, "Oh, I think it was because it was my first film. I have nothing else to compare it with. But she made me feel like I was the center of her universe. And when I looked at her looking at someone else, I felt she also made that person feel like they were the center of, her universe." And I found it like it's quite a phenomena, right? To have someone make you feel like your existence, your breath, every move you make. And I didn't know anything about at that time about the body, or like, an actor's body, the medium, or whatever, like being aware of, but every cell of my body was alive because she was looking at every cell of my being. And I thought it was just, I fell in love. And I had never had a boyfriend until then. And I had not felt this feeling of really falling in love. And I'm falling in love with a woman who I'll never see again, probably. It's my first film. Kaun jaane abhi kya, and so he asked me, "How did it feel?" I said, "I think मुझे तो इश्क हो गया था, and then मुझे तो पूरा मतलब मुझे तो लगा ये तो गड़बड़ होने वाला है क्योंकि ये तो निकलने वाली है, और फिर मैं क्या करूं, फिर मैं उनको थोड़ी बोलूंगी कि मुझे आपसे इश्क हो गया है, मुझे आपसे प्यार हो गया है, तो क्या करेंगे उसके साथ वो, and I have to anyway give my MA entrance exam, and then I have to do this and I have to do that." And then he shared his story of working with her, and he said, "I totally," and he said, "Now you will understand that I want to work with her again." And she has not replied back to any of my messages. उसका ईमेल एड्रेस है आपके पास? I said, हाँ, ईमेल एड्रेस तो है। She said, क्या है? I said, आज तो अभी तो पता नहीं मुझे, वो तो साइबर कैफे जाना पड़ेगा। तब फोन्स कहाँ थे कि ऐसे ईमेल एड्रेस निकालोगे? I said, वो तो साइबर कैफे में जाना पड़ेगा, या I can ask the producer to lend me, He said, "Please just find out what the email address is." Next day he was leaving, so it was a bit of a thing to do. So I said, "This is the email address." He said, "अरे मुझे तो उन्होंने गलत वाला दिया है." इसीलिए I was a bit awkward. I was like, but what I sensed from him, Aseem, was something that I can appreciate now. When you fall in love with with someone who gives you that much in a professional realm, in this work that we do, it is such a sacred feeling. It is such an irreplaceable, addictive feeling that you want more, you know. And I didn't understand why he was so desperate. At that time, you've already worked, you know, Salam Bombay happened, and he said, but I only got this part, and, you know, I wanted to do, you know, I want to do more, and she's not writing back, and you understand what it is to be in love. I said, yeah, I understand, but I don't expect her anything from her. She's already given me everything. You know, I don't like, so you're okay to not work with her again. At that time, I was like, yeah, I'm okay. Little did I know that 10 years later, I would feel the same. You know, certain things grow in you and certain people grow in you, and you realize the gift that they've given. So that was actually my first meeting with Irrfan, which ended with me giving him Mira's email address.
Right.
And many years later, imagine I meet him again. He's working with Mira in Namesake, and they are in New York while I'm, you know, working there, and in a crowded auditorium, which was packed. It was massive, you know.
I was there. Yeah.
And you know, in the Q&A, when the lights came on and the audience were lit, in between some question, he found me that I had cut my hair, Aseem, because I couldn't afford haircut. So I went almost ganja from India कि पैसे ना खर्च करने पड़े न्यूयॉर्क में. और तो मुझे तो और बस शैडोज ऑफ टाइम के दौरान हम मिले थे, उसके बाद कभी मिले भी नहीं, बात भी नहीं हुई. And he said, अरे तिलोत्तमा तुम हो ना? हाँ. And I was like, यार अजीब इंसान है. I was so embarrassed इतने लोगों के सामने. And he said, मिलना backstage आके मिलना. And I was so thing like सबके सामने ऐसे बाल कटवा दिए. And I was like, you know, तो थोड़ा embarrassed था, बस देख रहे थे. And of course I went and met him backstage, and hi, hello, कैसी लगी film? And I said, you know, that phone call of Tabu's, no, when she hears her parent dies, it was too much for me. And he just kept quiet and he said, अच्छा, मेरे काम के बारे में कुछ नहीं. I was like, what? I was like, I'm not even going to tell you anything. And literally I said, मैं तो कुछ बताने नहीं वाली. हाँ, आपका काम क्या था? हाँ, अच्छा था. पर वो scene ना, so I knew he was just, of course he didn't, but it was that, I was just so taken in, you know, by his sense of humor and by his, and then what followed. He just looked at me after a few minutes of talking and he was like, तो मन भर गया न्यूयॉर्क से अब घर वापस जा रहे हो? I couldn't believe it because I had actually given in my papers for resignation shortly after because I somehow felt I was too far away from my parents, and those were the best years of their life, and I didn't want to get a call and have to make a 18-hour, you know, remember Continental had an 18-hour direct flight from New York to Delhi. My parents used to live in Delhi then. Yeah. And I just imagine myself in Tabu's situation, getting a call that someone you love so much has gone away, and you have to sit on a flight, go do the rites, and then leave the other parent alone and come back.
Come back, yeah.
And I had made up my mind, amongst many other things. My love affair with New York was also getting tested. I had started working in the public sector, and I could see many flaws within the American public system that I had started to become critical of. And then there was a very emotional personal reason that actually made me put in my papers. And a few days after, Irrfan meets me and he says, so are you going back home? And I thought, this guy is someone I am going to at all costs avoid, because he can see through me and I don't want to be seen through, you know. And but I will never forget that encounter. And since then, Anup got us all together in Qissa. And there he was, seeing through me all over again. But I stopped fighting it as much, I think, by then.
So tell us about Qissa then, because people just watched the film. Working with Irrfan, especially, you had a lot of scenes together. How do you prepare, and how did you see him prepare, and then you guys rehearse together? How did Anup direct you both? Any memories?
So many memories. And I actually tried to write down because I knew I would be asked about Irrfan, and every time I've been asked before, I've said things that I've later felt like, oh, I wish I'd said something else. The preparation was really with Anup, like, you know, I want to share something. In a room one evening, Irrfan, so this is not in sequence, the answer, but in his hotel room in Baddi, one of the places where we shot, he said one day while having dinner, I was complaining about something, and he scolded me for complaining about that something. And then he said, you know how lucky you are to work with someone like Anup. You know, so early. And it was almost like so early. Like I was like, what do you mean so early?
Yeah.
I have been really waiting to work with someone like Anup, you know, it's not early at all. And he was like, you are really lucky. I had to wait much longer. And I hope you really, really treasure and value this. And you know, the thing is, I think of course, we already knew it. All of us who were on that film were bound by someone's trust, which only repeated itself after my encounter with Mira was with Anup, where someone who made you feel that your existence was unique, and that what you can bring, no one else can bring. You know, and I think having that kind of a director's gaze, that kind of does something.
I think
Something to your fears of what you Punjabi nahi pata hai, short, you know, such a petite frame, ladka abhi kaise should I, what kind of man to be, how to walk, and then it was really Anup for me who guided me through it, you know. And our conversation spanned over 9 months before we even got to shooting the film, because Punjabi classes were going on. And conversations where he said, you don't have to play a man. You will just do whatever it is to win the love of your father.
Yeah.
And it made things so simple. Then he said things like, you know, think about Kanwar has a public face and a private face. How does Kanwar sit when Kanwar is alone in a room? How does Kanwar sit when he's in public? How does Kanwar drink a glass of water when he's alone? And then he didn't have to say anymore. Then I could do, like, there were 100,000 things to think about. How would Kanwar, if Kanwar was wearing glasses, how would he wear glasses if he was in public? How would he wear in private? How would he eat? How would he sing? How would he dance? I had so much to work with. And the film then, you know, it became so neat, and yet, you know, these are like, it's when I also realized what a big thing direction is. Because you're not telling me what to do, but helping me discover the way to this character, you know? So I think the public face, the private face was a huge help. And there was once Anup also mentioned about the Tribhang, which is from the Natya Shastra, a certain pose. I share these because I think these are really precious, and it's like...
No, it's good.
Tell me to stop whenever.
No, please go on. Go on.
I share these because I feel like what I learned from Anup is something I can use. I have used in every film after that. You know, at least tried to. So he doesn't take his light with him. You know, it stays on. Like Irrfan, like, you know, the generosity of spirit and the legacy is not gone when they're gone. You know, and I think that's something really aspiring. So one of the things about the Natya Shastra, which of course I had not read, like Irrfan joked about how, did you not learn anything until you met Anup? You didn't know how to drive, you didn't know how to swim, you know? He said, you waited for this film to learn. And in a way I did. So this Natya Shastra, he said, there's a position called the Tribhang where your body is in torque. It's in like the top of your body is, let's say, this side, your knees are this side, and your head is in another direction. So if you see an X, Y, and a Z axis, your body is, different parts of your body are in different axes. And you can only hold this kind of tension in the body for that long. And eventually it will want to collapse because it can't hold on to this. But how it collapses, you don't know. It will be a surprise, you know? And so this he made me do in the audition where Anup asked me to make myself into a pretzel, like twist myself completely. And then when I can't hold on anymore, to just, if I could, everything was an invitation. It was never an order. Again, a really gentle way to direct someone. That whenever it was not possible to hold on anymore, if I could, to just exhale the word ma, you know. And there was no way of predicting how that ma would come out when your body is finally coming back to what it's accustomed to. And Anup, I don't know if you remember in that scene where Cover is having a bath and Neeli walks in on him, you had asked me to use the Tribhang from the Natya Shastra, and you know, how my body reacts when Rasika sees me, you know, not dressed, in a state of undress. And I couldn't have predicted. That's how, when, you know, the pieces fall, but you don't know how they'll fall. And it's that element of surprise, which I think, like how it ties up to what Irrfan was do with the singing of the dialogues. Beautiful thing when, as an actor, you feel a sense of surprise on screen at the same time that the audience, you know, you can't feel it. But it's rare. It's so rare, and but that's the fun. That's the beauty of, I think, working with someone like Anup, working with someone like Irrfan and Rasika and Tiska, is that you are constantly deeply grateful for the surprises, you know. And I think that was a big thing for me. And I really do believe that Irrfan stands for a very a man. He's, for me, is a very symbolic of freedom and a secular in being in the Air Force. And I thought many things, but when I was on that set with him, he gave us, all of us, you know, Anup created such a sense of trust. There was such a sense of freedom on set, even freedom from deciding how to play a scene. Like, it was not pre-decided, you know. Even though we workshopped, and, you know, Anup gave us so much time. We had dialect coaches. Anup did scene work, certain scenes with us. But I think the key and the thread that bound together was artist in Anup. You know, that's it. Not to over intellectualize anything, not to have, Irrfan told me one day I remember about the end of the film, I was like, you know, what happens, like when you know, lift me up and you eat me, and then where do I go? Samajh mein nahi aa raha. Irrfan, I'm sure you have understood it. You know, why don't you tell Rasika and me? Rasika and me had made this agenda that today we'll go, and while dinner, we'll ask him about the scene, and we'll tell him not to bring it up with Anup, so that we also know what is actually happening in that scene, and हम बच जाएंगे. हमें पता है, अगर 2-3 दिन बाद हो रही थी, तो टाइम था, तो हमने सोचा ऐसे कैजुअली पूछेंगे उसका मतलब क्या है. तो इरफान तो मतलब, you know, पकड़ ही लिया हमें. ऐसे वो सीन, इसे क्यों समझ में नहीं आ रहा? समझ तो आ रहा है, पर मतलब लाइंस तो लर्न कर लिया मैंने, पर मतलब क्या हो मतलब, you know. So he was like, don't worry, सब कुछ समझने की जरूरत नहीं है. You know, and I have taken that from him. It's so boring and so predictable and so stale, the offering that you offer and your beloved audience, when it's an emotion you already know, it's an action you already have played 100 times, and it's all pre-planned. But the joy of actually not knowing, but actually discovering something in the moment, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine, Aseem, if you had an orange placed in front of you, a tangerine or an orange, and you've never eaten it before. You're going to eat it for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, that I mean, when I think about it, it gives me gooseflesh. That these, you know, that scene which we didn't understand, but I remember that day when Irrfan, you know, in that scene where he lifts me up and then I disappear and we become one, or you know, however you want to read that scene. It was shot in such a way that I collapse and I fall at his feet. And the magic for me was watching Irrfan's feet, or take after take. I forgot that the sand was hot. He has the most beautiful feet. And I was like, आप मुझे 1000 बार और खा लो, मैं तो आपके पैर ही देख रही हूँ, इतने सुंदर है. You know?
So beautiful. So beautiful.
And that was my understanding from the scene. That you may have done, you've finished me, you know, but here I am, you know, at your feet. You don't see the beauty I see in you. You didn't see it in me. There were so many things I felt. There's so many things I feel today even, you know, which is I think what Irfan was trying to tell me, समझने की क्या ज़रूरत है? You know, अब समझ आ रहा है, अब मजा आ रहा है. You know?
That's so precious what you've said. I'm so glad we're recording this because this is something that people should listen to really. Anup, a question has come up which I should have asked you really on because we started talking about Irfan. The story of Qissa, how did that story come through to you? There's some personal family stories, I think, the partition idea. Do you want to address that a little bit? Because I think people would be very curious about that since they've just seen the film.
It has the film has a lot to do with my grandfather.
Yeah.
You know, at the age of 3, this is a little before the partition, actually quite a little before the partition, but already there was a lot of tension in the part of Punjab, which is now in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather comes from Rawalpindi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And his village was attacked one night, and the whole village was massacred. His relatives had somehow managed to hide him and his younger sister in a large tin of wheat.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And in the morning, when my grandfather came out of that tin, large one, he saw this whole village massacred and, you know, everything aflame. He and his sister roamed around really like pariah dogs, hardly with, really nothing to eat. And they would have died, but they were found by someone, a distant relative, who then tried to find out if there was anybody else, because their whole family had been massacred. Their parents had gone. If there was another relative. And finally they found that my grandfather's maternal uncle was in Africa, in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an exchange of letters, and finally my grandfather, his younger sister, I don't think he was more than 3.5, 4 years old at that time. And his sister was perhaps 2. You know, they were sent across the sea by ship and they came to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather grew up with a lot of bitterness, with a lot of anger, really a rage as to what had happened to him. You know, he had become an orphan so early. He had seen such violence around him and threat to his sister, you know. And somehow this violence kept on reappearing in his life in the way that he tried to come to terms with it. Unfortunately, the only way that he could find to come to terms with it was often to be very violent himself. When I was also, my father was born in Africa. I was born in Africa too. And I remember some of our walks together. My grandfather was quite a large man. He must have been 6'3" or something, and quite plump. And I remember walking with him, and he would tell me stories, tell me of his times, and of course, stories also that he had heard. You know. Later on in life, we were, I think at that time, then in London. I met a relative who must have been in his 80s, late 70s, 80s. And he told me, Anup, you know, you had a sister, a cousin. You know, I said, what do you mean? He said, you know, my daughter in the same village as your grandfather. As was the practice at that time, many of these villages, when they were attacked and there was no other way out, the women would choose to jump into wells and commit suicide rather than, be captured by whoever the attackers were. And this relative of mine's daughter, she was his daughter, she jumped into the well. And it had been, I think, 60 years since India's independence at that point, And he says that even today, every night, he dreams of his daughter in that well, looking up, into this sky, waiting for him, her father, to come and get her. And I think that, to me, was the real seed of Qissa. I really felt that here was my relative, my uncle. He, even after all these years, could lament and moan and tell his tale. But I wondered about this girl in the well, and I asked myself, who would tell her tale? And that is really where Tillotama's character comes from.
Right.
I wanted this girl to tell her tale.
Right. No, this has been a fascinating journey for me from the time I saw Qissa back in Toronto, I think 2013. And Irrfan was there, and you were there also. And Irrfan was there with also Lunchbox at the same time. So from that time onward, I've revisited the film quite a few times, including when I wrote the book. And I think each time my understanding of the book really evolves, evolves much more, as it did even today. Tillotama, I wanted to come back to you, not about Qissa, but one of my favorite moments between you and Irrfan on the screen was in Hindi medium. It is one of that film has some very, very funny scenes in it, sequences in it. That scene where he comes and he's so angry that his the guy who he works with, that guy's child has got an admission in the school, and he's angry, and you just keep saying, stay calm, or, tell us about how you guys worked that scene. It was just so precious, and it was funny. And you can also tell that here are these two actors who've known each other very well for a very long time. They're very comfortable, and hence they're able to do this without bursting out laughing, really.
We laughed a lot, actually, in the outtake. But I think that I really learned that from Irrfan, this whole, because he used to often tell me very kindly, and I would get very angry, of course, when he would tell me that don't be so serious, And his way of saying it was, "Tum itna Meena Kumari wali, matlab life mein kyun? Ye tone na kato. Gain some weight and don't be Meena Kumari." I don't understand why this. Like I said, when you have nothing to say to me, you will either say about my weight or you will say about this Meena Kumari. Don't talk to me if you have nothing new to say. Because it gets boring in any public gathering. Also, put on some weight. I'm like, have I ever told you? Why don't you put on some weight? I've left it to you, like it's your personal choice. I just wonder why, he's like, and now many things make sense, but this whole thing of, I also then, got married to this man who's really funny. And he saw, Qissa, and Anup, I think we're having a meal together. And by then, I was deeply in love with Anup, Qissa, the experience. I felt completely transformed, and I was now in love with this man, and I was living with him, and it was like boyfriend baap se mil raha kind of feeling, And Kunal was meeting Anup, and Anup asked him, "What did you think of the film?" He said, "See, Anup, it's a good film, a bit serious. But I suggest the next time, for both you and Tillotama's sake, you do something funny. I think you also need it. I think he also needs it." I was aghast, Aseem. I was like, my God, he has no idea. How can you talk to a director like this? I was aghast. I was like, I'm never going to take you for any such, work kind of things. It's, I was so thick. But then, and even Irfan would say the same thing. And so I think when I got a call from Hanit Rehan that there's a part in Hindi medium, I said, करना क्या है पर script तो भेजा नहीं script नहीं देंगे, छोटा सा part ऐसे यार छोटा सा part नहीं करना है, क्या अच्छा इरफान है अच्छा पर part क्या है, ये सारे scenes इरफान के साथ ही हैं. I said अच्छा part क्या, you have to be a total bitch or comedy है. I said हाँ. Because this whole thing of just taking myself not so seriously, of not having to prove myself to anybody. These are very hard-earned lessons. Yeah, it's so basic when someone tells you this.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard, It was very hard. And I think I was also attracting that kind of work in my life, which was very intense. And I think once I really made that switch, Hindi medium happened, so I walked on set with many ideas I had. So I had met the director and the writer before the show. That was my only condition, that I will do it if you meet me once before with my ideas of what I can do. I won't increase your number of scenes. You have only these many scenes for me, fine. But in these scenes, I want to have many ideas. I wrote all my ideas and they approved few of. I said, on set ke din agar naya ideas hai, wo bhi kar sakti, sir, try kar lena. And I went there and first take. Irfan was like, "Arey, tu aa gayi," and all that, chalo, let's shoot. And I did something, things that I improved, and we called cut, and we both burst out laughing because I didn't know, like there were things that I could just do. Like, I started talking in German. Irfan obviously didn't understand German. He didn't know I knew German. He couldn't understand what I'm saying. It became part of the scene. The whole idea was to make him feel less because of the cultural capital I have, knowing English. So I was thinking, Irfan, which language won't he know? So I will speak in that. And then he walked this way, I walked this way. And then both of us were like, oh, we are walking in different ways. We were just having fun. And the next take, I thought, acha, maybe that was too much. Let me go back to what is there. And I did the second take and he just looked at me and said, what happened? Why did you stop playing? I was like, I thought too much ho raha hai na. He was like, nahi yaar, let's play. Let's just play. And I think that's what it was. I think that's what Hindi medium really was. And that's why I said yes to Angrezi medium also.
Yeah.
I was like, खेलने तो जा रहे हैं, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, एक दिन का शूट है, आधे घंटे का शूट है, और and to be able to play with of course Angrezi medium saw both of us in a very different stage in our lives. Since Hindi medium life had changed a lot for him, for me as well, but it was I think it's because of that we were both just he taught me that how to have fun.
This has been really, really wonderful. I mean, we can keep going on talking. I think Rati wants to come on in and say a few, or maybe she has some questions also. Hi, Rati, how are you?
Hi. Hi. I'm trying to get my video working.
Oh,
we can see you.
We can see you. It's working fine.
Oh,
yes.
Lovely.
Yes.
Menika, are you there? I don't know if Menika is there, but yeah, guys, this is so awesome. I learned so much, and I really, really enjoyed meeting all of you and talking with all of you. My gosh, Tillotama, you're so refreshing, so lovely to hear you. And we what an honor to Irfan and Amit. If you can show up Aseem's book again, what a tribute to Aseem. I think to Irfan. This was just so beautiful. And Anup, you've given us a lovely film. I want both of you to tell me, what are your next projects? Because I am so hooked. Although this film, yes, it was very dark, was very difficult, and intense. Maybe Anup, a comedy next?
Well, in a way of speaking. In fact, if everything goes well, Tillotama and I are doing a film next year.
Wow.
We hope to start shooting in June. I won't say much about the film, but I'll tell you one scene that made me want to write the film and then only do it with Tillotama.
Yeah.
There was a time when I used to live in Bombay, and this was monsoon time. And as you might know, Bombay often gets flooded.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Bad.
And there was a group of beggars living on a kind of platform which of the parking. And that part used to just jut a little out of water, so they were safe. But
Yeah.
sometimes in the evening, I would take some food for them. And there
Yeah.
was a young woman there with 2 or 3 children.
Yeah.
Late one evening, it was dark. The street was, of course, empty because you can't drive or, you know, really walk in water which comes up to your waist. And I was just taking the food across, and I heard someone singing. And I went further, and I saw that it was this young mother. She was actually floating, half swimming in this flooded Mumbai city, you know, with all these beautiful, large Bombay skyscrapers all around her. And she was swimming, and she was singing a very popular Hindi film song, you know. And I watched her and I thought, wow, here is someone who's really on the margins of life and of the city. And yet, look, she's the queen tonight. You know.
The human spirit. It's so yep.
And it is from that image that I wrote a script, which I now bring to Tillotama.
Lovely.
And as far as acting goes, you know, in my films, she is my queen.
Lovely, 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 lovely. You know, I mean, this was so beautiful. Such a pleasure to have all of you, all 3 of you, with us. We do have some panels, workshops that are coming up. Not workshops, but they're panels, industry panels, and it'd be lovely if you guys could also join us on those panels, you know, next week. And I hope you watch some of the films that we're showing. It'll be lovely if you join us.
Indeed, indeed.
And I just wanted to say, my gosh, you took trouble to be with us, and you know, really went into all of this trouble. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aseem.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Aseem.
this lovely interview. And just want to shout out and give a shout out to your book again.
Oh gosh,
The book is available on Amazon. So Amit, you can just put that up once more, and make sure you read it. It's a beautiful book, and we're going to learn so much about Irrfan Khan in that book. Now I see that you have the 2 R's on Irrfan Khan, right?
Yeah.
That's how he later spelt his name.
It changed every so often, really, and so it was as Irrfan. It was although you know, the tombstone on his grave says Irrfan with a single R. That changed from, and he even dropped the name Khan a few times. Some other films. I don't know. In Qissa, do you call him Irrfan Khan?
I do, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe after Qissa, at some stage, he even dropped the Khan. You know, the man was evolving in every which way, including.
But in my very next film, Song of Scorpions, we are back with Irrfan Khan.
Acha.
Yeah. And lovely.
Yeah.
So folks, get the book and read it. I know I'm going to do that. And guys, thank you so much for being with us.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, Anup. How do people get to see Song of Scorpions? Is it going to be available streaming in the US or elsewhere in India soon?
Well, I have some good news.
Good. Let's hear that.
It is going to be released in India.
Theatrical, wow.
Theatrical. It's going to be released in India. We're just waiting. In fact, this was in a way good news today that some of the cinemas are opening.
Right.
So there's already a distributor, and they are setting it up. The film is also being released in France. And after that, I think it will come to one of the streaming channels.
I see.
Yeah.
Because we see a very different Irrfan in that. It's also a very dark role. And that was such a casting coup, by the way, because between Wahida Rahman and Golshifteh and Irrfan. And Tillotama has a small role in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he said the queen and all. Now you have to like somehow fit. But this was also really Shutapa.
Very much so.
Very much so. She like, I think I was like, I couldn't believe Anup was making another film and I was not in it. I was like, Irfan's in it. It's that's what it is. It's love, and I think I made my displeasure very vocal. And I think Anup, being the gentleman that he is, I think he was quite disturbed by my being so disturbed by it. And I was very vocal. It was over a very fancy meal in Pali Naka somewhere, one of those very European decor, and I say kuch eggs Benedict type kha rahe the, and I was like, I'm just shattered, and I started crying. And Shutapa looked at Anup, and he was like, but there's that part. And Anup and Shutapa, I think they were playing a game. I'm still not sure what the truth is. But Anup, yes, that part. Let's talk about this, Rotma. I think there's something for you in this. Basically, I got him. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy I got him. Yeah.
So people should visit that film also very soon. So thank you all. Rati, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rati. Thank you, Aseem. Tillotama, all my love.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anup. And thank you to the audience who have just seen our film. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Take
Stay
care.
safe. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.